there, Monster Gardeners. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about all the different trimming machines that we offer. Unfortunately, we couldn't get every single one that we wanted into this shoot due to the time of the year. It actually delayed production of this video. But this is what we have right now on our showroom floor, so I wanted to show you these and let you know a little bit more about them. Something that's really interesting that you might not know about us is that we actually rent out these machines, so we know which ones work well and which ones that don't. We get a lot of feedback from our local customers here, and it's very nice that they're able to try it before they buy it. A trimming machine is a large investment, so it's great to be able to try it out before you are committed to this large price tag of something, a big piece of metal like this that maybe you wouldn't be too happy with the operation on. We spoke a little bit about the wander trimmer in the harvesting trimming video. It's really interesting. It's a pretty cool product. I wanted to actually turn it on for you so you can hear it run. Comes with a speed controller to plug the vacuum into, as well as a speed controller for the actual wander trimmer itself, so you can go faster, slower, more suction, less suction. All the trim ends up here in a vacuum. So it makes trimming a lot cleaner, a little bit faster, and it definitely lessens the hand fatigue from scissors. So for the guys that like the scissor quality trim, this is a really good option for you, and it's not going to break the bank either. Another machine that we actually also rent out is going to be the Satellite, also from Easy Trim. As you can see, this machine has been through its paces. We've had this one for about 2.5 years, I believe, and it has seen countless harvests. We haven't had to replace anything on it. Still works great. This trimmer will do wet or dry, which is an awesome option to have, because anybody with a large level of production knows that you can't just do one or the other. You're going to end up doing some wet and some dry, and even a little cleanup with your scissors is inevitable. This machine does fantastic output. They even have a white paper that tells you how much money you're going to save over hand trimming just in labor alone. So this machine actually will pay for itself. Very, very gentle silicone fingers. We've discussed this in the past. You can control the motion backwards and forwards. It has a fan in there to actually suck the leaves down to the grate where they're then cut off by the blade. When you're dry trimming with this machine, you actually remove the blade, and you have this grate that's inside of there that does all the trimming work for you. Essentially, it uses friction like many of the other bladeless trimmers do. So this is another one that we rent out. We're very proud to be able to have this machine. It's done us quite well. It's helped a lot of people through their harvest, and I would say that close to 9 out of 10 people that rent this machine come back and buy it. So this is another machine that we rent out here. This is the Trimit Pro from DL Wholesale. This is also a dry trimming machine. It does pretty darn good in terms of the weight that it puts out per hour. Very, very safe in a number of ways. It has all these safety lockouts so that you can't actually run the machine when it's open, to keep you safe. It uses a metal band style blade similar to what the Triminator has, but instead of a plastic blade, it actually has a metal one on there. Same thing, you can flip it over in between runs so you don't have to clean it out nearly as often. We don't require you to clean out any of these machines if you come by and rent one from us. We do that for you. It's all part of the service. We've had this one for right about a year, and again, no complaints, still running strong. We've been having a lot of positive feedback about it. Very similar to the Triminator with respect to the loading. It has a pin here on the side. You load it in the vertical position, and then you actually have a number of different options in terms of where you're going to set it, all the way from flat to just a little bit of an angle. That's all dependent on your style of trimming and how you want to use the machine. Most people do trim with it flat, though, I will say, and then you dump it out in a similar fashion as well. We actually have a more in-depth film that we shot with Triminator. Rita came down a couple weeks ago and was nice enough to bring every machine in their lineup for us to show you guys. Everything from their wet to their new huge capacity, which does 50 pounds an hour. is harvest time again this year, and machines are kind of a part of life. There's always going to be a little bit of hand trim involved in the end, but in order to actually produce and get everything done in a timely fashion, machines are a great way to go. Triminator's got you covered, whether or not you're looking for a dry trim or a wet trim. We actually rent out the Mini here, and we've had a lot of good response with it. This one does 2 to 5 an hour, and it's very simple and easy to use. Even somebody like me who's disabled and can only lift up 30 pounds or so can handle this machine. Just like the other dry trimmers that they have, you tip it up, you fill it up, you let it run, you empty it. Catch tray down on the bottom, but you guys already know that because we've talked about this before. Then we take our next jump up. This one does 5 to 10 an hour. So that's a pretty good level of production, right? What gets better? 15 to 20. And then the monster, this one does up to 50 pounds an hour. That's a lot of production out of one machine. I mean, this eliminates an entire crew of trimmers. I know people that have a level of production that could probably use one of these for like a week. There's probably guys out in Colorado that could use it for longer than that. So this machine, just like all the other machines, it does tilt to load, and you can also tilt it to unload it. I would stick a tote down on this side because obviously you're going to be trimming a lot of weight at once, 5, 7, 8 pounds. So to tip it up, you simply disengage the blade. Very simple. Pull the knob. And I'm surprised actually for the size of this machine how easy that was for me to tip it up. And just like the other Triminators, you fill from this side. This one is a little bit different of a lock because it's a very, very industrial machine. As we'd said before, it takes up to 50 pounds an hour. That's a lot of trimmers. And it empties out the other end. And if somebody like me can operate this, then anybody can. I mean, I was really, really amazed at how easy it was to tip it up. To re-engage the blade, you pull the knob on the side, you're ready to start trimming again. I want to point out some of the unique features that the wet machine has because it's really different than any of the other wet trimmers that are on the market. It has these unique spray nozzles which actually help to lubricate the product and keep the reel clean so that it's self-cleaning, so you're not taking the reel out all the time to clean it or dunk it in solution or spray it with oil or anything like that. The blades, as you can see, are massive, super high RPMs. The hopper holds an immense amount of weight, and unlike most of the other trimmers that utilize a hopper, it's not made of plastic. Hooks up to a blower motor like many of the other standard trimmers that are out there. This guy actually catches all of your trim down in the bottom in these 2 plastic trays. This is an industrial style trimmer. It is the fastest trimmer that is on the market currently. Nobody does nearly as much volume as this machine can do. We're very excited to see this machine. This is actually the first time I've got a chance to look at it in person, and I have a feeling we're going to be selling a lot of these this season. But there's also something that Triminator has that nobody else does, and that is this moisture meter. So when you're trimming dry, it's incredibly important to have the proper moisture, or lack thereof, depending on how you're used to trimming. Most people who trim wet probably have no idea that the best is 9 to 10%, maybe up to 11 in terms of what you're going to have for the product that's going inside. If it's too wet, what ends up happening is it sticks. If it's too dry, it turns to powder. So having a moisture meter like one of these is crucial. It's very, very important, and they're not terribly expensive. It's something that everybody can afford and everybody should use. This can also help you out when you're doing drying, letting you know when is the right time for it to be dry and ready to dry trim. So I want to thank Rita for coming out and bringing these machines because we are super excited to be able to offer these, and we know that you guys will be super excited too once you get one of these in your hands. And if you can afford this level of production, please give us a call and we'll get one of these in your hands. Here we have our GreenBroz rental units that we actually rent out fairly frequently, so much so in fact, and they're so popular that we have 2 of them. As you can see, they are pretty beat up in terms of how the stickers and decals look, but that's going to happen when you're dealing with a sticky product and you might even be pressure cleaning it to finish. But again, we don't expect you to clean it. We don't want you to. We'll take care of that. These two units have been around for a little while. I think we had this one for about 3 years. This one's a little bit newer. They still both work great. We get great feedback from them all the time. Some people come back and rent them over and over again as opposed to just buying them. But generally, again, when people rent this machine, we get good feedback from them and they will come back and purchase one. These are both available to rent. We also rent rosin presses and pollen tumblers, which are two things that are of great use and importance during this time of the year. Obviously, post-production, what do you do with all your leftover trim? There are two options for you right there. Trim doesn't press too good, but you can always throw it in the tumbler and you can pull off all those trichomes and then press those. Over here we have the granddaddy of the whole GreenBroz lineup, which would be, of course, the 420 machine. It is huge. It does massive capacity. I believe Colin told me somewhere in the neighborhood of up to 50 pounds an hour. Much larger cutting surface. It works very, very similar, if not the same, to the smaller model. This is just scaled up for those guys that have a huge level of production. Instead of having a tray that comes out of the bottom or putting a bag on it, they actually give you this large tote to hold all the trim, and it works in much the same fashion. A little bit different in that it has the two blades as opposed to just the one, the sweepers there. The smaller unit just has one. It also has this great stainless steel table so that somebody who's, bucking flowers for you can hand you the flowers as you're doing it, place them on the tray, you can run them through the machine, pull them out the bottom. It also has an LED light for working in low light situations, because we all know that you don't always get to trim during the daytime. Sometimes you do it for 12, 16, 18 hours a day. So this helps to put a spotlight on what you're doing so you can still keep up with the product. All of these feature a safety switch. This one happens to be on the front. The machine will not operate unless this is depressed, which is why when the lid closes, the machine starts to work. Speaking of bucking, GreenBroz also makes something that they call the canogen, which helps to buck flowers from the stems, and it's very productive, very cool product. You can also stick your trim in another product that they have that is called the Alchemist, which is a super cool pollen tumbler. It doesn't do quite the level of production that the Pollen Masters do, but it does it in a very unique way. Very cool machine. I wish we had one to show you today, but I know that we're going to be able to show you some pictures at least, as opposed to one in operation. And over here we have Tom's Tumble Trimmer. It's a bladeless trimmer, tumbles it around, also has a keep separator. And here we have Twister. We really wanted to prominently feature a number of their machines. This one happens to be the T4. We wanted to get a T2 in here, their new trim saver, as well as the T6, which is their new tabletop trimmer, which is pretty cool. Unfortunately, due to circumstances, we weren't able to get all of them in here. It's that time of the year. Machines are in high demand. That's
As you can hear, it's a little bit louder than some of the other trimmers, but believe it or not, this is still quieter than a T2.
This machine, unlike the larger T2, actually has the blower motor incorporated in here, so it's not quite as loud as the T2 machine, which has the industrial shop blower. For large scale operations, they recommend that you run two machines on their conveyor, and then they have a number of other attachments that help to keep the angle correct, so that the flowers keep moving through, because a lot of people are reporting to us that the T2 often needs 2 runs to complete the trimming cycle. So by running 2 machines in tandem, you can accomplish that a lot more quickly. Very high level of production. They have both a dry and wet trim barrel available for each model. The important thing to note about all of their products with regards to the trimming machines is that you don't want to overload the barrel. These barrel style trimmers make contact with the blades toward the bottom here, so if you overload it, it's not going to have enough contact time with the blade to actually keep cutting efficiently. This is for a medium scale production type person. As you can see, it's significantly smaller than its cousin, the T2. but it still does a fantastic rate of production, and it does a great job of getting the flowers with minimal after work in terms of getting rid of crow's feet, things like that. But all machines are going to require a small amount of scissor work afterwards. That's just part of the job. So if you're in need of a trimming machine, think of Monster Gardens, and remember that if you're local to us, we also rent a lot of these machines so that you can try them before you buy them. It's always great to be able to try a product before you're committed to it. The Wander Trimmer, the Satellite, the Trimit, the Triminator Mini, GreenBroz 215. We do all of these machines as rental. Give us a call, we can get you on the schedule. It's not too late. These products and many other astounding products are available exclusively at monstergardens.com. Thanks for tuning in.